Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name's Ella and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I just want to do a quick kind of raw, maybe potentially uncut, I don't know, we'll see about that. I often stumble over my words, so might have to cut some bits out, but just a video addressing the current situation and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, because I haven't addressed it on here yet, and that's mainly because I have a very small channel, you know. I have a much bigger following on Instagram and my Facebook, well, lots of friends on my Facebook, so I felt it would be more worthy of my time to be posting on there rather than on my YouTube channel, just to reach the biggest amount of people. And so I've been sharing and, being pretty active on the subject over there, but I haven't mentioned it here at all. And it's worth a video, obviously. It's a very worthy cause, and even though I don't have a big channel, it feels wrong for me not to address the situation, especially because it directly affects me and it affects everyone. And actually, the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or I think it's been just over a month since George Floyd was murdered on the streets of America, they've been actually pretty hard. I've had a lot of realizations and a lot of conversations, and that's been really good. A lot of open conversations about the situation. That rhymed. But I just thought I'd come on here and kind of, I guess, tell a little bit of my story of racism that I have experienced growing up as a mixed race girl in London. So, if you don't know much about me, which you probably don't, I am half Jamaican, half English. Although my dad was born here, my grandparents came over Windrush style. And my mum and dad split up when I was 3, so I grew up with my mum's side of the family, and I have 2 older brothers as well. My dad has always been in the picture, but I just wasn't living with him. So I was living with my white family, with my 2 mixed race brothers, going to, most of my mum's side of the family's gatherings, and it was just nobody else is mixed race or black in that side of the family. So I've always felt a little bit of a disconnect. I feel like my brothers didn't feel it so much because they're quite a bit older than me. They're 10 years and 8 years older than me, so they have a closer age relationship, So they grew up with the same circle of friends, and they kind of had each other. Whereas I grew up with just me, and then my mum fostered a little boy. And that was pretty tough because the little boy that she ended up fostering had blonde hair and blue eyes, and so does my mum. And I don't. I really don't. And so I would be, I remember so many situations growing up, meeting one of my mum's old friends or whatever, and then going, like saying hello to the kids and asking my mum, oh, who's this one then? And they wouldn't say it about the foster kid, they would say it about me. And my mum would have to go again and again, that's my daughter, like, this one's my daughter, this one's my foster son, People wouldn't even imagine that I might be related to my mum, and that was pretty difficult for me. Like, feeling that sort of disconnect and feeling like you don't look like your mum so much that people wouldn't even assume that you could be her child. It's just such narrow-mindedness. And there is other situations similar to that where I'd be with my mum's side of the family, my white side of the family, and I can remember 2 particular situations of racist attacks against me as a child growing up in England. This is not just America's problem. This is a worldwide problem. One of them was when I was at a car boot sale with my mum and my foster brother and I don't know, maybe my nan walking around this car, boots out. I was like behind them, was maybe like 6 or 7, just walking behind, you know. And a man walked past me and burnt me with his cigarette on my hand. Like, picked up my hand and stubbed out his cigarette on my hand. And I obviously went and told my mum after, like, you know, getting the shock out of my system for a little bit. And back then I wouldn't have particularly have thought that that was because I looked like this, but of course it was. Of course, if he knew my parents were right in front of me, he wouldn't have done that. And I believe that was a racist attack. I don't think he would have done that to a little white family or a little white girl or a white child, you know. Similar situation happened when I was at the seaside in England with my nan. Again, nan, foster brother walking in front, me walking behind. Not for any reason other than I just kind of like to do my own thing and walk behind and was slow and looking at things or whatever. And I must have been about 8 at this point. And an old man walked past my nan and foster brother, obviously knowing that they're together, fine. Then I look like a little mixed race girl who doesn't belong there. You know, I didn't feel like I belonged there because I was the only one that looked like that. And I used to ask my nan when I went to this place, I used to be like, why is everybody staring at me? And she would say, oh, it's because you're so beautiful. Well, it wasn't, you know. I kind of knew why. I definitely knew why. It was because I looked different. And this man walked past them and then got to me and pushed me in the road. Which is shocking. Like, absolutely mind-blowing that a grown man can push an 8-year-old in the road. The whole of my childhood feeling secluded, feeling different, being one of the only black or mixed race people in my school, always getting taunted about that. When I was young, like when I was 4 or 5, I asked my mum, if I hold Dad's hand, will it make me more black? Because I don't want to be any more black. That was my thought process as a child. The fact that being black was such a negative thing to me because of society, because of what society has been telling me, that I didn't want to hold my dad's hand. And I didn't want to be called black either. You know, I have equal amounts of black and white. But growing up, I didn't want anybody to acknowledge the blackness in me, which is half of me. That is a whole half of my identity that I felt wasn't good enough. And as I got older, you know, the sort of outright racism and also the childhood, just like children just say stupid things and they copy their parents and it's not their fault. And they ask questions and they're just, you know, children are very blunt, and it would often hurt me growing up and it would often make me feel very, very isolated. As I got older, that kind of stopped a little bit, but other things started. You know, going to dance college, when I was at the auditions, being one of the only mixed race people there, and then I got into dance college, musical theatre college, and in my industry especially, it's a big problem to always feel and always be also told that you are only there because you are fulfilling some sort of quota. You know, that kind of stereotype as the token black kid or the token mixed race girl, in my case. So I always felt like that in college, and I also felt an outright difference in the whole of my life. I have felt like I have been treated differently to my white counterparts by my teachers in particular. Okay, and I'm back. We just had a plumber arrive. to sort our drains out. So that's great. Interrupting a really serious video. But yeah, the whole of my life I felt like I have been treated differently. You know, in school by my school teachers, and again in dance college. I think the whole stereotype of the angry black woman has really, really affected me negatively. Very passionate person, and I will stand up for what I believe in no matter what. And I've had the problem that no matter what, no matter how calm and collected I try and put my point across, even if I was to put my point across the exact same way as my white friend, say, in school, or if I was to reply to the teacher in the exact same way as my white friend, I would be told I was being, I had attitude and I was being sassy. And they wouldn't. And I think that's a direct result of the systemic racism that puts black people in this category of angry human beings that we need to be careful about. And that has really bothered me, and that still happens to this day. A lot of this still happens to this day. I'm just trying to spread awareness of the differences and how subtle racism can be. You know, growing up, doing dance and musical theatre, that's a very white industry. Theatres in London are very white and middle class. And I'm often the only black or mixed race person in the entire building, including the entire audience. You know, I was in 42nd Street in London in one of the biggest theatres in the West End, and there were a couple of other mixed race girls in the cast. Not a single black or mixed race boy in the cast. And in the audience, sometimes I would look out and there would not be a single person of colour. It's down to money and the class problem that we have right now in England. The class division against, you know, black people and white people, just the amount of money earned is completely disproportionate. And also the fact that how likely would you be to go to a place where you would be the one standing out, where you would be the odd one out, essentially, which is what black people, I think, can feel like going to theatre, especially if it's not to a black show. You go and it's a very middle class white, population, and it's full of just white middle class people, and I can't imagine that a lot of black people feel particularly comfortable in that setting. Reverse the roles, and just being the odd one out, that sort of separation in society is not what anybody wants. You know, we all seek to be a part of something. I can't imagine living in America right now and fearing for my life every time I stepped out of the door. I don't have that. I don't have that in England. I don't have fear for just being in England, which I'm so grateful for. I bet some people do, but as a mixed race woman in London, I feel that is why I love London so much, is because it is so mixed. There is such a wide range of ethnicities, and that makes me feel good. That makes me feel connected. I love my heritage. I love being a mixed race woman. Like, I love that now. I've grown to love myself, which is, yeah, I spent my entire childhood not loving myself. And I'm not by any means there yet, but in terms of the colour of my skin, I love being me. And I think that is the very least that everybody should feel, is comfortable and happy with the colour of their skin. And just to be treated the same. That is all anybody wants in life, is to be treated equally. And the fact that it's 2020 and we're still not there yet isn't good enough. It's not good enough. So, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Let's open up a conversation down below. I am happy to take on any of your questions, or if you're not sure about saying the right or wrong things. Honestly, if you asked my friends, they would say I'm the most, you know, I'm very open and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. If you're confused, or you can privately message me on my Instagram. I'll leave the link down below. And let's get talking. Black Lives Matter. Thank you for watching. I'll speak to you in the next video. Bye.